Hello, Miss Hedges here. So we're about a third of the way through the book and I'm very, very excited to find out what Ned is about to get up to next at his old school with his headmaster. Blazing Bottom. Mr. Rath had been careful not to expel all the children at his school. If he did, there would be no children left to expel, and he loved expelling children. Once a child on their very first day at the school was expelled for skipping through the school gates. It was a new record for Mr. Rath, expelling a child who'd been at the school for less than 3 seconds. As for Ned, the boy was expelled for the simple crime of laughing. In fairness to Mr. Rath, the boy was laughing because in art class the pupils were charged with decorating an egg for Easter. This is why we could see eggs in the last part. Ned had painted his egg to look exactly like Mr. Rath. This was much to his and everyone else's amusement. You can see the similarity, can't you? You boy, bellowed the headmaster. What are you doing back at my school? You're expelled. Hello again, sir, chirped Ned. He didn't sound too bothered. It is impossible to be expelled when you've already been expelled. And what on earth is this monstrosity you have brought with you? Spat Rath. What a dreadful little man, murmured Slime. Whatever shall we do to him? Ned thought for a moment. We need to teach the headmaster a lesson. Us kids have suffered his rages for long enough. Rath is always in a rage about nothing. Let's finally give him something to be really, really, really angry about. Splendid. Now let me think. Too late, Blobby, shouted Mr. Rath. I'm going to punish this boy severely. Did you hear me? Severely. With that, the headmaster whipped out the long wooden ruler he'd been concealing under his cloak. Rath lunged at the boy, ready to strike. Thwack, 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 went the ruler as it chopped through the air. Just as Mr. Rath was about to cause Ned excruciating pain, Slime shapeshifted into a giant octopus, a sloctopus. One of the sloctopus's arms wrestled the ruler from the headmaster, while another looped around the man's ankle. Before Mr. Rath could shout expelled, the sloctopus lifted him high into the air. Ned laughed as he looked up to see his old headmaster upside down above him. Ha ha ha! I will get you for this, boy, screamed Mr. Rath. I'm not sure you will, replied the boy. Let him go, shouted the teachers gathered in the playground. Actually, I don't mind if you keep him, muttered the bearded deputy head. Mr. Luss had long been lusting after the top job at the school. What now, my young friend? Asked the sloctopus. Spin Mr. Rath round like he spins round that ruler of his, replied the boy. Can you see that sloctopus? And Mr. Rath spinning round and round. I don't mind if I do. So the sloctopus spun the headmaster faster and faster and faster still. It was as if Mr. Rath were on a particularly puktastic. Pukesome, puculus, all the words you'll find in your Allen's dictionary. Fairground ride. Let go now, commanded Ned. The sloctopus released its grip and Mr. Rath went flying off through the air. Whiz! Ah! He cried as he zoomed up above the clouds. There was an eerie silence for a moment when it looked as if Mr. Rath might be heading for outer space. A sound of whistling cut through the quiet. All eyes in the playground searched the sky. There! Shouted Ned. Ugh, what a shame, muttered Mr. Lust, stroking his beard. There was a tiny glow of red light high in the morning sky. As it began to descend, Ned exclaimed, It's Mr. Rath's bottom burning up as he re-enters the atmosphere. Before you complain to me about this, let me inform you, this is science. Apollo 11, spacecraft returning from 1969 mission to the moon. Looks very similar to Mr. Rath's bottom. "Oh!" cried Mr. Rath as he plunged through the sky. Fortunately for the headmaster, he crash-landed into the sea. Splosh! There was the sound of sizzling as the water put out the blazing fire on Mr. Rath's bottom cheeks. Then the headmaster cried, "Help! I can't swim!" "Let's not be too hasty," remarked Mr. Lust. "Tea and biscuits, anyone?" Ned nodded to Slime. They couldn't let the man drown. The Sloctopus reached out one of its long arms. It grew longer and longer and longer still until it reached all the way into the sea. Then the Sloctopus plucked up the headmaster, who was bobbing in the waves, and deposited him back in the playground. Splat! All the teachers had to stifle their giggles at the sight of the headmaster looking most undignified. Rath was soaking wet, and the seat of his trousers had burned right through. Everyone could see his bright red bottom, still blazing from his descent. It was so red it looked like a baboon's bottom. All the school children still had their faces pressed up against the glassroom windows. Now they were laughing at their headmaster too. Ha! 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 No one laughed harder than old man Giles, the 92-year-old pupil whose punishment was being put down a year every year. He'd been at Malt School the longest, 87 years to be precise. Ha! 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 Old man Giles chortled so hard that his false teeth shot out and hit the window. Clunk. This only made him laugh more. If Rath were an egg, he would now be scrambled. "Goodbye, sir," chirped Ned sarcastically. The Sloctopus transformed into a hot air balloon, a slaloon, and it whisked the boy up from the bench and into the sky. "My ruler!" bellowed Rath. On cue, the slaloon dropped the ruler and it landed on the headmaster's head with a clunk. Laughed all the children. "Do come back again soon and finish him off, please," called out Mr. Lust. Oh, that's the end of that chapter. We'll find out next time who Ned's going to visit next. Take care.